my name is Mark Schofield, and if I were to choose just one area I'm most passionate about, I would say it's energy efficiency, especially in buildings and homes for all people, and decarbonization through electrification. And I know that's like two or three things, but they're all closely linked. And the reason I'm passionate about that is because here in Washington State, buildings are one of our largest contributors to carbon pollution, and they're the fastest growing contributor. And we all have a role in this because we spend most of our time indoors in buildings. And I believe that safe, affordable, healthy homes are right for everyone. So I want to see that future of efficient buildings. But the other part of that with electrification is that our state is now required by legislation to achieve 100% clean energy, or 100% clean electricity by 2045. And so by efficiently electrifying buildings, we can have a huge impact on carbon pollution. And I know that energy efficiency is not necessarily like the snazziest aspect of climate action, but it's one that can make a really big difference in helping reduce the burden of carbon pollution in our world.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a hard question. How do you narrow it down?
Yeah.
Especially when so many things related to climate activism are interlinked, right? Mm-hmm. There's so much intersectionality within it all. So I'm really looking forward to talking to multiple people and hearing kind of different facets of it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How do you think that your faith has impacted your action and advocacy in caring for the earth?
I'd say caring for creation has been a really central part of my faith for a very long time. And especially as my faith was forming, I had experiences in wild nature. I can envision many times sitting under dark skies filled with stars and communing with the Spirit that way, of feeling rock and wind on high mountains, of exploring quiet forests, and all those times are places where I've felt closest to the Creator and most connection and feel most responsibility to protect what the gift that we're given. Also, I'd say my faith has brought more of a focus on simplicity. I always think of the old Shaker hymn, "'Tis a gift to be simple," and I think it is. And another thing that reminds me of that within my faith is the Lord's Prayer when we talk about give us this day our daily bread. And for me, when I say those words, I think of the fact that we need things in this physical world to survive and thrive, but we don't need as much probably as we think we do. And it brings to mind the idea of like sufficiency. There's enough. So I'm grateful for those gifts we have, but it kind of brings me back to that level of thinking what we really need. And then I guess another big element of it is that is God's call for justice has helped me tune in more to the injustices and suffering that other people experience. And it really helps me understand better the human environmental impacts and sins that are often visited on those who have the least power in society and in our world. And I've seen it in lots of places, like firsthand in factory hog farms in Iowa, and industrial pollution in low-income communities in Denver, and oil and gas development near rural communities in western Colorado, and oil pollution that affecting indigenous people in Ecuador. There's just so much that I think my faith has helped me open my eyes to and realize that we need to be caring for all our brothers and sisters, human and otherwise.
Yeah. So I, just out of curiosity, what is it your work that's taking you to all these different places to see these things, or is it just...
Some were different experiences in college, some work related, like I worked in western Colorado and major area of oil and gas development, and we worked on issues that related to impacts on local communities. And then we did travel to Ecuador 12 years ago or so, and were able to meet with indigenous people in the Ecuadorian Amazon who were impacted by Chevron and other companies and had their lives turned upside down. So,
that's really interesting. So I think sometimes people get overwhelmed by the concept of environmental justice and all of the issues and aspects. What does it look like in your daily life? How do you enact kind of your justice work and your advocacy work in your daily life with simple things that you do at home?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with simple things that maybe seem kind of like a burden. Mm-hmm. It might seem like a burden to people, but it can actually be really fulfilling and life-giving. So one example is we have one family car. It's a 17-year-old internal combustion engine car, but it mostly sits in our driveway because we're able and choose to bike and walk most places, whether it's to work or errands or church. And so that's one way we do that. Another way, we have a lawn at our home, and we let that go gold during the summer. But when we are mowing it, I have a push-wheel mower, which takes a lot longer, and it's a lot more exertion, but I actually like the exercise. I like the fact that it's quiet, and I can talk to neighbors when they walk by on the sidewalk, not turning off the gas mower. So, it's sort of a small thing. But we've made bigger investments in our own home. So like 11 years ago, through Community Energy Challenge, we weatherized our home and replaced our gas space heating with a ductless heat pump, an efficient electric system. And then about 4 years ago, we got a 7 kilowatt solar photovoltaic system on our house that basically almost meets all of our energy needs throughout the year now. So those are big investments. Not everyone can do that, but we made a choice to do that and hope it pays off.
Totally.
Yeah, I got some other aspects too. Just like I try to live simply and think about my consumption decisions and ask myself, do I need that new shirt or that new outdoor gear, or do I need to take that plane flight? Like they're all things I try to question more now. And then I think just in general, I try to renew my soul in nature and in wild places, and then try to advocate for protection of those places that kind of fill me up.
Absolutely. Cool. Where do you hope that our faith community here at First Congregational Church of Bellingham might be able to address some environmental issues?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I'm really excited we're having these conversations now. I think it's really important. I'm excited to hear what others say and hear some other perspectives. I think our church could play a really powerful role in advocacy. And one example that comes to mind locally is that the Bellingham City Council will soon be considering whether or not to send an initiative to voters that would establish a climate fund in the city. And I think our church could play a role in ensuring that there's equity baked into that so that the benefits of that go to people who might be least able to make that transition now. And being an advocate for it once it's on the ballot, if we're satisfied with it. So I think advocacy is one area. Also think of this building. I think there's so much potential here. Like, could we be a climate refuge for people who, like be a cooling center during extreme heat events, or a shelter for people who have dealt with weather-related disaster, or sponsoring in some way climate refugees who come to our community who've been displaced from elsewhere. So a lot we can do, and even in our systems in our building, like thinking long-term about the maintenance. So when it comes time to replace like a heating system, a gas boiler, let's be thinking ahead about the options for electrifying the systems. So those are all kind of more nuts and bolts things, but I think also we can be a really prophetic witness in the community and helping create a vision where we're more focused on sufficiency and enough, and making sure people have what they need sustainably.
Absolutely. Where do you see kind of hope for the future as you're looking at this big picture of, kind of environmental activism and, all the issues that we're dealing with? Where do you see hope that kind of drives you?
I try not to be a pessimist, but it is hard to find hope sometimes. A lot of the metrics are going in the wrong direction. Like last year, we hit 420 parts per million in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. That's the wrong direction. And every year now, more than 20 million people are displaced by climate conflict and disaster. And we're in the sixth great mass extinction, largely caused by humans. and at faster extinction rates than in past extinction. So it's like, there's lots of heavy stuff, and sometimes it's hard to find hope. So let me tell you the places I can find some hope. One is in young people and their voices in leadership, which I think can shake us from old assumptions and values. I find some hope in leadership that our city, Bellingham, is taking and our state is taking. That can be as an example for others, even in the face of failure of our federal government. I also find hope just in FCCD, being here in this community and being ready and willing to engage in these topics. And then probably the most fundamental thing that gives me hope is just that in my knowledge and belief that God loves us and loves all creation, and that we were created with an incredible capacity for love and creativity and action. So when I get down about the bigger picture of everything that's going on, I try to hold on to those things, and that gives me some more energy and courage to do what I think needs to be done.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with folks before we go?
Just that I really look forward to more conversation with this church, and I look forward to having us challenge each other to step out in ways that we haven't before on climate and on care for creation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for us to push one another a little bit and learn from one another a little bit, and open up these dialogues so that we're kind of learning more about different aspects of things. So
yeah.
awesome.
Well,
Thank you so
Jen.
much. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.